Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on your time zone. You are watching Seeds for You by Sherry. And if we're meeting for the first time, I'm Sherry. If you're one of those people who have been keeping up with the times, then you're in the know about the trending sex doll brothels that have been popping up in various locations like Barcelona, which, by the way, started this trend, Italy, Paris, Europe, Asia, Japan, and attempted in Houston, Texas, which I'm going to talk a little bit about because I actually live here in Texas. But when the attempt was made to bring a sex doll brothel to Houston, the Canadian owner of Kinky S Dolls was met with a lot of pushback from the city mayor and from the Christian anti-sex trafficking and anti-pornography groups. Nevertheless, in nondescript bedrooms and undisclosed areas, dolls are sterilized and prepped daily for service. Now, as controversial as this trend might be, it's a growing trend. And we're going to talk about it all right here today, including the cost, the sanitation as it pertains to the doll's hygiene, the laws, and the dangers involved. But before we get into that, be sure to subscribe below, hit the notification bell so that you are notified anytime that I post new content. And by all means, like if you find value in this video, share, and leave me a comment to let me know that you were here. Now hold on a minute. Stay right there to the end of the video because I actually have some really good stuff to share with you, and you have to stay to the end to learn more. Welcome back to my channel. Now let's begin by talking about some of the selling points of the sex doll brothels. Let's begin with the customization. Customers who are interested in purchasing one of these dolls, they can actually have it customized according to their own taste. Like for instance, you can choose the hair color, you can choose the eye colors, you can choose the nationality and the body type. So if you like small petite women or full-figured women, or if you even want one that's pregnant, it's all your choice. You can have it your way. Now, there are some issues. Just like with anything else, there's always issues. There are always pros and cons. But now, while the makers of these dolls and these brothel owners paint a glamorized picture of the benefit of sex doll brothels, one of the dangers involved is the consent issue. Now, you're probably wondering, a consent issue. It's a doll, right? But these dolls cannot say what can and cannot be done to them. And because there are no limitations on the fantasy fulfillment, responsive sex bot, robot, sex bot, get it? You get it, can increase, not lower, the demand for human prostitution and embolden men to practice and act out their desire for violent and non-consensual sex, resulting in dehumanizing behavior such as rape. Manufacturers and brothel owners do not want the general public to view these men as misogynists, but rather as men who are seeking an outlet without bringing harm to anyone or cheating in a relationship. Owners would have us to believe that this is a benefit and it helps the socially impaired and decreases trafficking. Now, that part, I kind of have a problem with. It decreases trafficking? Really? Now, to aid in their defense, they revealed that they receive a lot of inquiries from the visually impaired and from the hard of hearing, and therefore they use this as a moral compass. It is their belief that the dolls can provide an alternative for the dedicated and for the loyal people who are in unsatisfying relationships or sexless marriages, but they don't have a desire to violate their vows. Contrary to that belief, non-normative preferences can be far more damaging. Now, what about the economics? The bottom line, These sex brothels is all about economics, period. Why? One of the reasons why would be because they save owners money. Because the owners don't have to pay the dolls for their services like in human brothels. In 2020, the sex toy industry was valued at 28.64 billion United States dollars, experiencing a 26% growth during the pandemic lockdown. Now, yeah, it's a gray area. It's a gray area because the sex doll brothels are legal in many more countries than the human brothels are. Now, I said I was going to talk a little bit about Houston and the pushback, and so let's get into that. Knowing what we know so far, there is no wonder that there was a lot of controversy surrounding the plan to open a doll brothel in Houston. As previously stated, the Canadian owner of Kinky S Dolls, that's just one, there's also Lumi Doll and others, of course, was met with this pushback by the city, mayor, and religious groups. Now, communities like Houston believe that it will harm marriages and ruin the reputation of the city. Now, brothel owners would argue that this helps rather than harms marriages because these dolls can serve as an outlet for mental stress and can prevent adultery. Further, owners would love for us to believe that doll brothels decrease trafficking. Here it is again. I find it hard to believe that. When you think about this, when you really put a lot of thought into this, really, come on now. But if manufacturers were to create, sell, and promote dolls that look like young girls, we would see an increase in the desire for prostitution and trafficking against underage girls. Now, we're still talking about Houston. In 2018, Council member Greg Travis of District G said, "This type of enterprise degrades the city and we're not a sin city." Former council member Brenda Stardig of District A said, "We don't want to be known worldwide for these things. We don't want these things happening here." Now, meanwhile, the demand for brothels is so pervasive in Houston that it has been said by an official that there are more brothels than Starbucks. As a matter of fact, there can be up to 400 brothels operating, according to Robert Sanborn, who is the president and CEO of Children at Risk. Now, the most startling part of this vice for me is that it's a cover for trafficking. Not only is there an issue with doll brothels, but it works hand in hand with trafficking. The Houston Chronicles reported that 313,000 Texans are human trafficking. One case revealed that many women are lured to a particular family with the promise that they will be working for the family restaurant, which doesn't exist. And then once these girls are there, they get tattooed with their pimp's name like cattle, and then they're forced into prostitution to pay off a trafficking debt, while also competing with android prostitution. Now, despite Houston's pushback, Gerald Treese, who is a legal analyst professor, confirmed that doll brothels don't violate most state prostitution laws, and this is, of course, as long as it is not displayed in public view. Now, Treese went on to indicate that there was not really much that the city could do to stop this brothel from opening other than deeming it as a public nuisance and then having a location pushed to a red light district. Treese acknowledged that while sex doll brothels are offensive, they are not illegal. And they are protected by the First Amendment. Now, to combat this right, Houston amended an ordinance forbidding patrons from engaging in sexual activity with any inanimate objects in a business. Now, I thought that was pretty smart because at the end of the day, whenever you're trying to get something done or something undone, it's always about the language. Now, remember, They weren't breaking any laws. It wasn't illegal, okay? And it was protected by the First Amendment. But the fact that they went back and they amended it and turned it around and changed the language, they were able to succeed in what they were doing. Now, I guess by now you're probably wondering what it would cost to have one of these dolls. To become a personal owner of one of these dolls, it would cost you a whopping $5,999. Now, I always wonder why they put that 99 at the end of all prices. Why not just round it up to the next dollar? It's a $6,000 doll. Okay? Now, to lure buyers, manufacturers offer a rent before you buy trial run to their customers. To be clear now, the price is not what's going to deter the customers, because we all know that anytime you want something, if you really want it, you're going to find a way to get it. And they know that people are going to pay that price for those dolls, so that's why they can price it so high. $6,000 for one of those dolls. Now, okay, so now that we have discussed all of that, the whole thing is about the Sex Doll Brothels. So what is a service like that going to cost you? Well, in Toronto, it costs $120 an hour and $90 per half hour. Now, if a client is late ending the session, then they're automatically charged another $90 for the half hour, and it continues, per half hour. Now, for the big spenders, that's just a drop in the bucket. Some of them go in and they get intoxicated and they stay for days and a week. So they end up spending thousands of dollars in the brothel with the dolls. So anyway, all right, so now let's talk about the Healthiness, because I know that some people probably think that they're being safe or they're not at risk if they're having relations with a doll. With a doll. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that. But contrary to what people choose to believe, health risks are prevalent. STDs are still a risk even with silicone prostitution. The risks are not lowered even though the doll brothel staff work frantically to sterilize and clean up these dolls in between appointments to make sure that they are up to the hygiene standards. Now, daytime television, the doctors confirmed that these dolls are nothing more but depositories for STDs, stating that this repeated use around the clock subject clients to bacteria STDs, viral STDs, MRSA for staph infection, and who knows what else. Now, let's be real. We know that everyone is not practicing safe sex with those dolls. And come on now. They're supposed to, but we know that they're not doing that in that place. Now, as we take a deeper look into this industry as a whole, we are finding that the human sex workers are becoming a little concerned that these androids are going to replace them by 2030 as predicted. Now, an hour with a doll costs less than an hour with a human. So it's less expensive than a human worker. Some of these human workers are already experiencing a decline in their clientele or their customers. But not all of the human workers are concerned at all, because some of them feel like that these androids will never be able to offer emotional labor, since some customers only just do talk and cuddle. Like, they don't even come to do anything more than that but to talk and cuddle. And an android doll would not be able to offer that. Now, manufacturers themselves also feel that sex bots, even the advanced intelligent ones that have the blinking eyes and the facial expressions and the responsive language and the head and joint movement, along with warm bodies, will never replace humans. Now, even with that being the assumption, there are some men who have elected to seal the deal with their doll by marrying them. Yes, legally marrying them. Now, reasons given for such a decision is that they say that the dolls don't say mean things and they don't expect anything in return. So in that case, they are satisfied and they wouldn't trade their doll for a human even if the opportunity presented itself. They say that these dolls provide satisfying companionship. They enjoy buying them clothes and dressing them, buying them wigs and combing their hair and doing their makeup, even taking family photos. They take them to go fishing and they hold conversations with them just like a real family, but only with a doll. Now in Japan, this would not be viewed as creepy at all because they believe that everything living or non-living has a soul. But that's another video. Now, since doll brothels do not violate most prostitution laws, then is a shutdown even possible? Now, public outcry and moral pressure has succeeded in getting some brothels shut down in various locations like Hong Kong and England, while others have been forced to move their locations to places where only their frequent clients would know about. Now, we've covered, pretty much, and I'm not here to take up all of your time. The bottom line is to say, if you didn't know, now you know. So if you found value with this video, please don't forget to subscribe and like and comment. I really would love to hear from you. You can, ask questions or just comment. Let me know what you thought about it. If there's something else that you want to hear about, talk to me. Tell me. I mean, really, I will do the research. As always, love you all.